It's finally time for me to start sharing some of the amazing conversations I've had with people around the globe. This podcast will dig deep into the struggles and hardships that have been the defining moment for so many. And we'll keep it all in the gold zone, which I define as the area between good and great, the zone where change is made and goals are met, one podcast at a time.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So a little bit different on this episode 3 is that because we can't travel, I unfortunately can't record some people in person. The way I was able to film Vic is that he was able to film himself on his end and then send me over the files, but it's not the easiest process unless the person on the other side has all the equipment and the right tools and understands how to send all the files, so it got a little difficult. And so I wanted to do episode 3, just me by myself, to kind of go over some things that I get asked a lot that maybe I could explain further for some of you guys. One of the really big questions is people always ask, what kind of tools should I get as a beginner? Or I'm new to the industry, what do you recommend? And it can get confusing because there is so many tools out there available. So it is very difficult to find something that you understand from the beginning. It took me a while to get into all the different tools that we have available, that if I could go back in time and recommend a set that is really well equipped to help you handle any of the stuff that you're going to deal with in the barbershop, I'm going to go over that today. And we'll talk a little bit about my journey through clippers, or even why I use the tools that I use today. When I first started out in the barbershop, what I got in my kit was a wall taper 2000. And if you look at this clipper, it's a really basic model. It actually burned out itself before I had to upgrade to my first professional level clipper. And the clipper at the time that a lot of people enjoyed using was the Andis Masters. So that was officially my first clipper out of school and into the first barbershop that I worked at. My old clipper from my beauty school kit actually crapped out on me while I was in the middle of a shift. So that was the first time I actually had to buy a clipper of my choice. And that at the time was the best thing. What people liked about it and what I was drawn to about it too is that it was told that it had a longer stretch lever and not specifically locking detents, but there was a measure on the lever that told you kind of where the levels were. And I used that little ruler kind of as a way to figure out where I was in the haircut, and that was really helpful at the time. But because I was working in such a heavy walk-in shop, as my clientele grew and I got busier, it became a little bit more difficult to use that tool because the vibrations were so hard, and also the tool itself is all metal, so it was really heavy for me. If I was doing 17 haircuts, my hands were pretty shot by the end of it. Let's see, so I experienced all that. I used a series of wall clippers, all the things that you can think of, the Wall Legends, Wall Seniors, the Taper 2000, the one I started with, the Balding. The Magic Clip was the last one that I used from the Wall series. When it comes to Andis, BGRC, the Andis Master. What was the other one? I've used the Oster 76 as well. The Wall Detailer, the Wall Hero, if you guys remember that trimmer. I've used the Andis Slimline LI, which is the silver one that everybody used. And keep in mind too, back during this time, everything was corded. I guess count that all up, that's a lot of clippers. I've also experienced with foil shavers, the Bronze series, the Wall, the Andis. So it's safe to say that back during that time, I really enjoyed using all these different technologies because it helped me understand how it worked. Oftentimes I would wonder why certain blades would stretch a certain distance. It's like from open to close with a lever, or using something like an Oster 76, which doesn't have a lever at all. Oftentimes I've been in classes where people are told to buy that tool, and as you're learning to cut with metal detachables, in my opinion, I think it's a little difficult because you don't have a lever adjustment to blend in between. You're literally jumping guards from, a 1 to a 2. Understanding the 000s, the quadruple zeros, and the 5 zeros. That part made it really confusing, especially if that is your first tool and then you're mixing it up with also clippers that use plastic guard. What's also confusing is the metals run tighter than a plastic guard. So if I'm using, for example, if I use a half guard plastic, I can't add a 1 metal after that. The metal, I think, roughly runs half a size less than a plastic guard. So you have to understand how to transition between metal and plastic, which is why I speak so highly on plastic guard systems are the easiest to follow because everything has its place and it connects into each other. Another thing too to keep in mind is understanding the RPMs in which the clippers move. And what I mean by that is this inner blade runs at a certain speed. Usually 7,500 and above is pretty fast, to where if you're going really fast, it's not going to pull the hair. And this is something I had to learn through going through it when it was happening. I was using wall at the time, and I'm sure everything that I used back then is now upgraded to something faster. But I remember once, and maybe you guys have kind of gone through this as well, is when you're blending and you're going pretty slow and it's all the way down close to the skin and you're at the closest, and as you're blending, it almost feels like it's plucking the hair out, and you get these like little, like literally the scalp will bleed just little spots of blood because it felt like the clipper was either too sharp is what you thought, or maybe the pressure that you were applying was too rough. And so I'd see these little random pockets of blood sometimes, like as if I plucked the hair out. And what I didn't realize at the time is that because the RPMs weren't moving fast enough, I was moving too quickly. So it was actually plucking the hair out of the scalp. Once I understood that, and I used tools that were 7,500 RPMs and above, whether I would go fast or slow, it stopped happening. But for a really long time, I was just literally staring at some of these customers like, why is this happening? Am I moving too fast? Or am I applying too much pressure is what I originally thought. I even slowed down, and sometimes it still did it and sometimes it didn't. So that is another thing that I had to learn along the way. So now we fast forward to today. And, currently, as you may know, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I work for the company Barber Pro. It's a technology company. Everything that we create at the moment is always getting improved. All of the things that we have are tested by a number of barbers that cover all of the US market to create the current stuff that we have today. What do I recommend? So a lot of times people ask, can I get something because it's cheaper? They want something more affordable. But if you are moving into the professional world, I highly recommend that you invest in something that you know will last you longer. I don't believe that you should start with a beginning kind of clipper to get you started, because the more that you use it, the better it gets for you. And I know a lot of clippers now cost a lot more than they used to. Let's look real quick. I'm gonna do a quick search on Amazon, and I'm gonna see how the tools have changed. So I'll look at the Andis Master first. And the best thing about clippers now is that they are cordless, okay? That's one of the new things. So instantly the prices are gonna go up. But it's really honestly one of the best things that I've seen transition from, because when I first started, remember, like I said before, everything was corded up. So it's wrapping around your clients, it's wrapping around the ground, your station, it gets caught in different things. So having something a little bit more free, just free like cordless clippers, was a way for me to really just kind of move through things as I wanted. All right, so let's see. Andis Master, the traditional one that I use, is currently $111.98 on Amazon, so roughly 112. And and I know recently they became cordless, so let's look at that price. So Andis Master cordless, this is the new one. It's $288 on Amazon here, so it jumped up from 112 to $289 pretty much, right? So $289. So what I'm saying is everything evolves over time. The technology is getting better, the lithium batteries are getting better. So it really, I don't see a difference in having to invest in something cheap that's gonna break on you versus something that's more of a professional level that's gonna last you longer. Especially if you take really good care of it, they can last you forever. Like I have a clipper right now I got when I first joined the Babyliss team. It's the X2. I've had it for 4 years now, and it still works. And it's probably my longest working clipper, and that is priced at $200. Better technology, again, better blades, better lithium battery. All of those things matter, and it's honestly worth it. As you're using really good tools, your clients are gonna notice a difference. I've had clients comment all the time that my clippers feel different on their heads compared to other places they've been to. They'll even say that it feels really smooth. And this is something I could even relate to, because when I used to get haircuts and get designs on the side of my head, there were often times if people were using like a lower end or maybe dull tools, that I felt kind of a roughness to my head, and to almost sometimes, as weird as it sounds, like your follicles kind of hurt, as if like someone is like scrubbing on them too hard. So I definitely see a difference. So when they said that, I related to that really well. And once I started using better quality materials that are rubbing against the skin, which comes to the metals, and I'll do another video explaining the different types of metals and why that even matters, but it makes a huge difference and people notice it and it's a positive thing, then I'm gonna definitely keep investing in better equipment. And this is something I've always personally attached myself to, is that whatever it is that I'm using, I always try to like find ways to invest. Things that I've learned about clippers and how they function, the battery life, everything like that. It takes me to this moment that I want to recommend you guys. I think, in my opinion, the easiest to understand, really great quality tools that will last you a long time, something that's reliable, really great battery life, cordless, 15-minute indicator light to tell you that it's going to die versus the old school ones that didn't tell you anything. Here's some myths to understand that people often say. If I go into cordless, when the battery is dying, the motor starts to slow down and now I have to move slower. So that was the problem with like the first generation of cordless clippers. I remember that because it would slow down. Like you can hear the actual motor kind of like, you can hear it go slower and slower. And what happens is if you're still moving regular speed, right, you're gonna be pulling that hair out. So now with newer technology, there's chips inside each of these tools that allow you to have full power until they die. So when they die, they just shut off. You're not gonna get a drag. And that is a big plus for me because I don't have to worry about it slowing down. So now I'm gonna have that indicator light to tell me I have about 15 minutes left to plug it in. Every little detail matters to me. And if I'm gonna provide the best quality in the service and the cut, that goes down into the type of tools that I'm going to invest in and use every single day. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Black Effects. This is the StayGold colorway. This is a really dope project that I got to be a part of, and I can't believe my face is on a box. This was only a limited edition, so whatever is out there right now is currently what we have left, and then it's goodbye and on to the next. So one thing that I really love, really similar to the locking detents that I talked about when I first started cutting hair, that really drew me to this clipper, is that this has locking detents on the side that, if you see, as I move through this, it actually clicks into it. So it's kind of a deep little socket that it sits into. And again, whether you are a level 1 or a level 10, this is a really helpful clipper. It comes equipped with also a fade blade. Fade blades are flat and they run tighter to the scalp. I have another video that explains the different types of blades, so you guys can check that out when you want to kind of get deeper into the different blades. But out of the influencer collection, which is the black, the red, and the white, the black is the only one that has the fade blade. 2-hour runtime on a full charge, which is amazing. See, this is the indicator light right here, and then this is your power button. Comes with all the guards that you need, the half guard, the 1, 1.5, 2, all the way up to 6. And when I first started cutting hair, I only had guards 1 through 8. There was no 1.5 and there was no half guard. So when I first started getting into skin fades, and this was when I was using my beauty school kit, the Walltaper 2000, I was so confused as to why I couldn't blend certain parts of the hair. Like, it was hard to go from clipper open to a number 1. Like, there was an obvious line, and that was where usually the half guard sits at, because the half guard and the 1.5 are kind of like your blending guards during really crucial parts of the haircut, because you're still dealing with the short parts, and those are the hardest parts to blend before you get into blending a 2 and up, because they kind of sit in a lot better and they can hide better, versus when you're cutting really tight hairs, everything kind of stands out. So when I think about how difficult it is to do a men's cut versus a woman's cut, unless the woman's cut is like a crazy like shaped bob where it's very detailed, it would be really hard to tell, even in layers, where some Like when it comes down to like, I'm talking about millimeters, and with men's hair, you can see any kind of flaw. So that's why the details for every part of that whole thing matters. Recently launched this year. This is a new release, and this is where it gets really fun because this is the custom effects. It actually came out earlier this year. And what's cool about this is a build your own. So you can have this in any colorway that you want. There's like over 1 million combinations that you can do. Down to the blade, this is the best part because you can actually choose what kind of blade you want to have on here, whether that's a fade blade or a taper blade. You can customize which piece you'd like to build that with. Currently, they are only at hair shows that I've seen, but I think they are working on a mobile app that people can build and ship to their home. So stay tuned for that. I don't know when that's happening, but I think that's what's gonna happen. I made a Wolverine kind of colorway just to have something a little bit more brighter. And what's crazy is once I started cutting with this, like clients noticed it instantly. It's like, oh wow, that's a really cool clipper. And it becomes kind of like a point of conversation. So now I'm going to talk about the trimmer for a little. This is our latest and greatest project. We have this that first came out in gold, then silver. There's a black one coming out in June. I'll do a video on that. And what I really like about this is that this piece right here, it's cut off. So what that does is that it allows you to really squeeze into tight areas without the body of the trimmer getting in the way. So especially for beards as well, you can get in really tight right around the ears. Really great for detailing. Graphite blade. Next, we have foil shavers. Back when I was using foil shavers, there's usually the box style ones, right? And they usually come in plastic, and that would be the Wall and the Andis ones were plastic. What I really love about this one is that it is metal. So when I'm traveling, this was a huge selling point for me, was that it had this metal cap. Before this, there was just these little small plastic covers. And if I was traveling or anything like that, they would fly off and the foils would smash up against something in my bag and rip apart or whatever. So having a metal cap was like really great for me. I love that part. Double foil shaver has a really heavy weight. At first I was a little scared because it was a lot heavier than the plastic setups. But because it's so sturdy, I think it makes me more careful, and eventually I got used to it. Just like anything else, the more you use it, you will become accustomed to it. Again, same power cord here on the bottom. Lasts a pretty long time before I actually have to charge it back up again. I love this thing. It's got a good weight as well, so it does apply a really good natural amount of pressure as you're using this. Something new, single foil shaver. This came out not too long ago. This came out after the double foil, but this is nice because it's lightweight. The single foil, it's really great for detailing. Great for beards, like I'm talking about behind the ear where you have only that really tight amount of space. This fits really well. And the only thing with this is that it works off AA batteries, which is it's good and bad depending on how you want to take it. I try to find a positive point for everything that happens. It's already an enhancement to my life, so I try not to look for negatives. But if you have lithium rechargeable batteries, really great to have as backup to use for this. I personally just enjoy carrying a couple new batteries in my bag so I can swap them out as it dies. And really great for house calls too, because as long as you have a fresh battery ready to go, this is a really great travel size if you didn't feel like bringing the bigger one. So that, guys, would be my basic setup for any beginners, any people getting in for the first time, people that are transitioning over into barbering, or just anybody who just wanted to see what else was out there. I've talked to you guys about the experience I've had in the past with all the other different clippers that I've used, my honest feedback on learning on different systems. I hope this was helpful. I can't wait to do another video and talk about something else. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate any feedback or questions that you have on anything I just talked about, and I will try my best always to get back to you and answer those questions. So thank you guys again, and I will see you on the next one.